What if your doctor has been measuring the wrong number your entire life and that single oversight is quietly costing you everything after 60?
I'm Dr. Daniel Harr. After 2 decades in metabolic medicine, there is one number I always order that most physicians never think to test.
This number predicts your heart, your brain, your weight, and your energy bateau, often a full decade before anything shows up on your standard blood work.
Meet Mr. Raymond, 71, retired civil engineer, regular checkups, normal glucose every year. His doctor considered him the picture of metabolic health.
Raymond had gained 22 pounds in 3 years, all around the midsection. He was exhausted every afternoon by 2 p.m. His doctor called it aging.
Normal aging. That was Raymond's answer. In my experience, those 2 words almost always mean one critical test was never ordered by anyone.
When Raymond came to me, I added one test his doctor never ordered: fasting insulin. His result came back at 19. That changed everything. 8 months later, 17 pounds gone, energy restored, mental clarity back. One overlooked number, finally measured, changed Raymond's entire metabolic trajectory after 60.
19 microunits per millimeter, more than twice the optimal level. His HOMA-IR calculated to 4.7. That indicates significant, measurable insulin resistance.
Insulin is the hormone your pancreas releases when you eat. Its job is to move glucose from your bloodstream into your cells for energy or storage.
When your cells stop responding properly, your pancreas compensates by producing more insulin. Then,
here's what most patients were never told. Insulin governs fat storage, brain function, inflammation, and cardiovascular risk, poor simultaneously. Reason 5, glucose is always the last number to change. By the time it flags on a standard test, the underlying metabolic damage is already years old.
Your pancreas compensates brilliantly. It produces more insulin to keep glucose in check, while the metabolic dysfunction underneath keeps quietly worsening every single month.
Raymond's story is not unusual. Now let me explain why that one number is so much more powerful than anything else on a standard blood panel. That scope is why fasting insulin is so uniquely predictive. I'll give you 5 specific reasons, starting with the one most physicians get entirely wrong. Glucose is the smoke, insulin is the fire, and most standard blood work checks only for smoke, usually years after the fire is already well underway. If your doctor has only ever measured glucose, they have been watching the alarm, not the source. That distinction matters enormously when you are over 60.
Reason 4, chronically elevated insulin is the primary driver of visceral fat, not the fat you can see, the fat packed around your liver, pancreas, and heart.
Seamless. After 60, this cycle accelerates. Muscle mass declines, reducing the body's ability to absorb glucose. It
creates a self-reinforcing cycle. High insulin drives visceral fat, which worsens insulin resistance, which raises insulin even further, round and round.
When insulin stays chronically elevated, it sends a continuous storage signal. Your body converts excess carbohydrate into fat and packs it directly into the abdominal cavity. Visceral fat is metabolically active. It secretes inflammatory compounds that directly damage your arteries, impair your liver function, and accelerate insulin resistance further. The good news: visceral fat is highly responsive to insulin correction. Patients who lower fasting insulin.
Reason 3, chronically elevated insulin is one of the strongest predictors of cognitive decline and memory loss, years before any diagnosis is ever made.
When brain cells become insulin resistant, they can no longer clear beta amyloid plaques efficiently. These plaques accumulate. They disrupt neural signaling. Cognition declines.
This process begins an estimated 15 to 20 years before detectable cognitive symptoms. The window to act is not in your 70s, it is now. Margaret came to me at 68, retired teacher, increasing word-finding difficulty, normal glucose, normal A1C.
If you experience brain fog after meals, difficulty finding words, or unusual forgetfulness, you may be seeing.
That's reason 3. Reason 2 has perhaps the most direct impact on whether you reach the next decade in good health. It's about your heart.
Most physicians focus on LDL, and LDL matters. But the research is increasingly clear that insulin resistance drives.
If you are on a statin or blood pressure medication, fasting insulin may be the most important test you have never been offered. Not cholesterol, insulin. Reason 1 is why I call fasting insulin the single most predictive number for anyone over 60. It doesn't predict one condition, it predicts all of them simultaneously. Reason 1, fasting insulin is the closest thing medicine currently has to a 10-year health trajectory forecast. Your trajectory, specific to your metabolism, right now.
When I calculate HOMA-IR from fasting insulin and glucose, I get a metabolic fingerprint, a picture of where your entire system is headed, not just one organ.
Your fasting insulin tells me more about your 10-year metabolic future than your weight, your blood pressure, your LDL, and your resting glucose combined.
Fasting insulin is a simple blood test alongside standard fasting glucose. Fast for 8 to 10 hours. One additional tube drawn, that is all it requires.
Between 10 and 16, early to moderate insulin resistance. Between 17 and 25, significant resistance. Nothing in this video is medical advice. This is educational context. Every clinical decision of every test, every intervention must involve your own physician. Now, what can you actually do about elevated insulin? Because knowing the number matters. But having a plan is what changes the trajectory. Number one, a 10-minute walk after your 2 largest meals of the day. Not a workout, a walk. The research here is consistent and the mechanism is straightforward. Number two, a 12-hour eating window. Last meal by 7 p.m., breakfast by 7 a.m.
During those 12 fasting hours, insulin levels drop to baseline. This allows insulin receptors to resensitize.
Number three, berberine, 500 milligram with your main meals. Research suggests it activates a metabolic pathway similar to metformin. Always discuss with your physician.
Actions. Berberine activates AMPK, an enzyme that improves cellular insulin sensitivity. In clinical research, regular berberine...
These 3 interventions, post-meal walking, 12-hour fasting window, berberine with meals, work through distinct mechanisms. Let me summarize everything we covered to pound, because this is information worth having clearly organized before you take any action.
People who understand this test do not just protect themselves, they share it with their spouse, their adult children, their siblings. Information like this travels. It should.
Fasting insulin detects resistance a decade before glucose moves. It governs fat storage, bradykinin functions. Optimal fasting insulin, 2 to 8 microunits. HOMA-IR below 1.5. Above 2 after 60 cas. The 3 interventions, post-meal walks for 10 minutes, 12-hour eating window, berberine 500 mg with meals, discuss with your physician. 3 habits, 1 target number. Insulin controls your fat storage, your brain, your heart, and how you age. Get this number right, and the rest of your metabolic picture tends to follow. Everything on this channel exists to give you the biological context your standard care cannot provide in 15 minutes. That is the purpose. That is the commitment. If this was useful, subscribe. Every video here covers a mechanism and your standard appointment never reaches. That is what we do. More is coming every week.
In the next video, I'm covering the 5 foods that spike insulin more than table sugar, including one that appears on every registered dietitian's approved list.